वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्त। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश धारणे। Hare Krishna. Continuing our reading and study from the 11th chapter of entrance of Lord Krishna into Dwarika, and how the residents of Dwarika, they welcome Krishna. We saw the opulence and the grandeur of Dwarika, and individually how everyone is admiring and appreciating the beauty of Krishna. Today also is the auspicious appearance day of Shri Veerbhadra Goswami. He is the son of Lord Nityananda and the disciple of Janava Devi. He is said to be the incarnation of Shirodakshai Vishnu. So we'll proceed from verse number 28. Pradeep Prabhu, 28 is from today. I covered 27.
Yes, Prabhu.
So we see how Krishna is reciprocating individually with elders, how he offered his respects, and with others, he met and acknowledged everyone. He did not leave or spare anyone. Then moving further, Pravishtastu griham pitro parikshvata swa matrabhi vavande sirasha sapta devaki pramukha mudha. Where he has reached now? He has pravishtastu griham pitro, in the house. Pitro means of the father. So he is now meeting his father, who is Vasudev, and Devaki Devi. After entering the house of his father, he was embraced by the mothers present, and the Lord offered his obeisances unto them by placing his head at their feet. Vavande Sirasa Saptaha. Vavande is offered obeisances. How? By Sirasa, by placing his head. By placing his head at their feet. The mothers were headed by Devaki, his real mother. It appears that Vasudev, the father of Lord Krishna, had completely separate residential quarters where he lived with his 18 wives, out of whom Srimati Devaki is the real mother of Lord Krishna. But in spite of this, all other stepmothers were equally affectionate to him, as will be evident from the following verses. Lord Krishna also did not distinguish his real mother from his stepmothers, and he equally offered his obeisances unto all the wives of Vasudeva present on the occasion. According to scriptures also, there are 7 mothers. First is the real mother. Second is the wife of a spiritual master. Third, the wife of a Brahmana. Fourth, the wife of a king. So they are all considered to be mothers. Apart from own mother, spiritual master's wife, she is our spiritual mother. Then the wife of a Brahmana. A Brahmana is also considered to be mother. Then queen, wife of the king. She is also to be considered as the mother. Then we have cow, who is mother. Then 6th is the nurse. And 7th is the mother earth. All of them are mothers. Even by this injunction of the Shastra, the stepmother, who is the wife of the father, is also as good as the mother because the father is also one of the spiritual masters. Lord Krishna, the Lord of the universe, plays the parts of an ideal son just to teach others how to treat their stepmothers. Taputram ankam aropya snehasnuta payodhara harsha vivala vivalimana Shishijur Netra Jair Jale. So the mothers, after embracing their sons, sat him on their laps. He became like a small baby sitting on the lap of their mothers. And then further Sneha Snuta Payodhara. Sneha means out of intense affection. And what happened is affection was so intense that they, due to pure affection, milk sprang from their breast of the mothers. They were overwhelmed with delight, and tears from their eyes wetted the land. When Lord Krishna was at Vrindavan, even the cows would become moistened by affection towards him. And he would drink milk from the nipples of every affectionate living being. So what to speak of the stepmothers who were already as good as his own mothers? Athavishat swabhavanam sarvakamam anuttamam prasada yatra patnina sahasrani cha shodasa. Thereafter the Lord entered his palaces, which were perfect in the fullest extent. His wives lived in them, and they numbered over 16,000. So, the Lord enters his palaces, the place where his queens are, and what is the number? Over 16,000. Lord Krishna had 16,108 wives, and for each and every one of them, there was a fully equipped palace, complete with necessary compounds and gardens. A full description of these palaces is given in the 10th canto. All the palaces were made of the best marble stone. They were illuminated by jewels and decorated by curtains and carpets of velvet and silk, nicely bedecked and embroidered with a gold lace. The personality of Godhead means one who is filled with the power, all energy, all opulence, all beauty, all knowledge, and all renunciation. Therefore, in the palaces of the Lord, there was nothing wanting for fulfilling all the desires of the Lord. The Lord is unlimited, and therefore his desires are also unlimited. And a full supply is also, and the supply is also unlimited. Sorry. The Lord is unlimited, and therefore his desires are also unlimited. And the supply is also unlimited. Everything being unlimited, it is necessary, it is, everything being unlimited, it is concisely described here as Sarva Kama, or full with all desirable equipments. Patnyapatim proshya grahanu Patnyapatim poshya grahanu Vilokya Sanjata Manomahotsava Uttastur Arad Uttastu Arhat Sahasasan Ashayat. Just spoken in 3 English words. Sahasa, Asan, the queens of Lord Krishna rejoiced with their minds to see their husband back home after a long period abroad. The queens got up at once from their seats and meditation. As was socially customary, they covered their face shyly and looked about coyly. As mentioned above, the Lord entered his home palaces occupied by 16,108 queens. This means that the Lord at once expanded himself as many plenary expansions as there were queens and palaces, and entered in each and every one of them simultaneously and separately. Here is another manifestation of the feature of his internal potency. He can expand himself in as many forms of spiritual identity as he desires. Even though he is one without a second, it is confirmed by the Shruti mantra that the Absolute is one, and yet becomes many as soon as he so desires. These manifold expansions of the Supreme Lord are manifested as plenary and separated portions. The separated portions are representative of his energy, and the plenary portion and the plenary portions are manifestations of his personality. Thus, the personality of Godhead manifested himself in 16,108 plenary expansions and simultaneously entered into each and every one of the palaces of the queen. This is called Vaibhava. It's called the Vaibhav, or the transcendental potency of the Lord. And because he can do so, he is also known as Yogeshwara. Ordinarily, a yogi or mystic living being is able to expand himself at most to tenfold expansion of his body. But the Lord can do so to the extent as many thousands or millions as he likes. Unbelievers become astonished to learn that Krishna married more than 16,000 queens because they think of Lord Krishna as one of them and measure the potency of the Lord by their own limited potency. One should know, therefore, that the Lord is never one, that the Lord is never on the level of the living beings, who are but expansions of his marginal potency, and one should never equate the potency and the potent. Although there is very little difference in quality between the potent and the potency. The queens are also expansions of his internal potency, and thus the potent and his potencies are perpetually exchanging transcendental humors, known as the pastimes of the Lord. One should not therefore become astonished to learn that the Lord married so many wives. On the contrary, one should affirm that even if the Lord marries 16,000 million wives, it is not completely manufacturing. He is not completely manifesting his unlimited and inexhaustible potency. He married only 16,000 wives and entered in each and every one of the different palaces, just to impress in the history of the human beings on the surface of the earth that the Lord is never equal to or less than any human being. Because being however powerful he may be, no one therefore is either equal to or greater than the Lord. The Lord is always great in all respects. God is great, He is eternal too. Therefore, as soon as the queen saw from a distance their husbands who had been away from home for a long period due to the battlefield of Kurukshetra, they all arose from the slumber of meditation and prepared to receive their most beloved. According to Yagnavalkya, religious injunctions, the woman whose husband is away from the house should not take part in any social function, should not decorate her body, should not laugh, and should not go to any relative's house. In any circumstances. This is the vow of the ladies whose husbands are away from home. At the same time, it is also enjoined that the wife should never present herself before the husband in an unclean state. She must decorate herself with ornaments and good dress and should herself and should never present herself before the husband in an unclean state. She must decorate herself with ornaments and good dress, and should always be present before the husband. I'm not able to read too much batik. Someone can read, Manora? Read. Want to cover someone. 2 nights and very less sleep because of two consecutive sessions. Krishna is kind. My tomorrow class has been, I would be giving. Ami Avilas Maharaj is coming, he'll be giving. Otherwise, I would have to again remain awake. Okay, Manoram, read. Should I share or you will share yourself?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, am I audible?
Ah, yes, very clearly. Very clear.
Yes.
I am showing you to save time. Continue.
Yes.
They are never separated from here. They are never separated.
They can never be separated from the Lord, for He is always with them either by His personal presence or by their trance. The gopis at Vrindavan could not forget the Lord when He was away in the forest covering. When the Lord, boy Krishna, was absent from the village, the gopis at home used to worry about Him traversing the rough ground with His soft lotus feet. By thinking thus, they were sometimes overwhelmed in trance and mortified in the heart. Such is the condition of the pure associates of the Lord. They are always in trance. And so the queens also were in trance during the absence of the Lord. Presently, having seen the Lord from a distance, they at once gave up all their engagements, including the vows of women as described above. According to Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, there was a regular psychological reaction on the occasion. First of all, rising from their seats, although they wanted to see their husband. Prabhuji, little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit down, Prabhuji, yeah.
Okay.
They are deterred because of feminine shyness, but due to strong ecstasy, they overcame that stage of weakness and became caught up with the idea of embracing the Lord. And this thought factually made them unconscious of their surrounding environment. This prime state of ecstasy annihilated all other formalities and social conventions, and thus they escaped all stumbling blocks on the path of meeting the Lord. And that is the perfect stage of meeting the Lord of the soul, Sri Krishna.
तम आत्मजा दृष्टि भी अनंतरात्मना दुरांत भावा परिरेभिरे पतिं निरुद्धमपि अस्रवाद अम्बु नेत्रयोर विलज्जा विलज्जितनम भृगु वार्य बालकवत. Read. Read. The insuperable ecstasy was so strong that
Hare Krishna. Yes, translation. The insuperable ecstasy was so strong that the queens who were shy first embraced the Lord in the innermost recesses of their hearts. Then they embraced him visually, and then they sent their sons to embrace him, which is equal to personal embracing. But O chief amongst the Vrigus, though they tried to restrain their feelings, they inadvertently shed tears, purported by His divine grace. Although due to feminine shyness, there are many hindrances to embracing the dear husband, Lord Sri Krishna. The queens performed that act by singing him, by putting him in the courts of their hearts, and by sending their sons to embrace him. Still, the act remained unfinished, and tears rolled down their cheeks despite all endeavors to check them. One indirectly embraces the husband by sending the son to embrace him because the son is developed as part of the mother's body. The embrace of son is not exactly the embrace of husband and wife from the sexual point of view, but the embrace is satisfaction from the affectionate point of view. The embrace of the eyes is more effective in the conjugal relation, and thus, according to Srila Jeev Goswami, there is nothing wrong in such an exchange of feeling between husband and wife.
It's very important. You see the etiquette, how they are conducting themselves. Keeping the, what principle do we see from here? This few verses that we have discussed, last 3 verses. What principle that we can learn? What is the learning in this 3 verses that we discussed? No principle, no learning. बोलिए. Yes, Dayashish bro.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, the principle of sinus Prabhuji, sinus we read that before also.
Yes, very important. That is the ornament of to show yourself as very bold. So this Prabhupada is saying in the last sentence, Prabhupada said that the exchange of the eyes is even more effective than the bodily exchange. And how they embraced? In the innermost of their hearts, through their minds, and through their sons. Okay, proceed. यदि अपि असौ पार्श्वगतो रहो गतस् तथापि तस्य आङ्घ्रियुगं नवं नवं पदे पदे का विरमेत तत्पाद चलापि यच्चरेर्न जहाति कर्हिचित्.
Although Lord Sri Krishna was constantly by their sides, as well as exclusively alone, his feet appeared to them to be newer and newer. The goddess of fortune, although by nature always restless and moving, could not quit the Lord's feet. So, what women can be detached from those feet, having once taken shelter of them, purported by His divine grace? Conditioned living beings are always after the favor of the goddess of fortune, although by nature she is moving from one place to another. In the material world, no one is permanently fortunate, however clever one may be. There have been so many big empires in different parts of the world. There have been so many powerful kings all over the world, and there have been so many fortunate men, but all of them have been liquidated gradually. This is the law of material nature, but spiritually it is different. According to the Brahma Samhita, the Lord is served very respectfully by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. They are always in a lonely place, also with the Lord. But still, the association of the Lord is so inspiringly newer and newer that they cannot quit the Lord for a moment, even though they are by nature very restless and are moving about. The spiritual relation with the Lord is so enlivening and resourceful that no one can leave the company of the Lord once having taken shelter of Him. The living beings are by constitution feminine by nature. The male or enjoyer is the Lord, and all manifestations of his different potencies are feminine by nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, the living beings are described as Para Prakriti or the superior potency. The material elements are Apara Prakriti or the inferior potency. Such potencies are always employed for the satisfaction of the Lord or the enjoyer. The supreme enjoyer is the Lord himself, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita 5.29. The potencies, therefore, who engage directly in the service of the Lord revive their natural color, and thus there is no disparity in the relation of the potent and potency. Generally, people engaged in service are always seeking some post under the government or the supreme enjoyer of the state. Since the Lord is the supreme enjoyer of everything in or outside the universe, it is happiness to be employed by Him. Once engaged in the supreme governmental service of the Lord, no living being wishes to be relieved from the engagement. The highest perfection of human life is to seek some employment under the Lord's supreme service. That will make one extremely happy. One need not seek the moving goddess of fortune without the relation of the Lord.
Okay. We take this verse also, 35th. It is in the same section. And from 36th, the new section will come. You completed 33rd or 34th?
33rd, Prabhuji.
Okay, we'll take two more, 34th and 35th. Evam nripanam shiti bhar janmanam akshani bhi pravritta tejasam vidhai veram swashano yatha analam mito vedano parato nirayudha.
The Lord was pacified after killing those kings who were burdensome to the earth. They were puffed up with their military strength, their horses, elephants, chariots, infantry, etc. He himself was not a party in the fight. He simply created hostility between the powerful administrators, and they fought amongst themselves. He was like the wind which causes friction between bamboos and so sparks a fire. Purport by his divine grace. As stated above, the living beings are not factual enjoyers of things which are manifested as God's creation. The Lord is the genuine proprietor and enjoyer of everything manifested in His creation. Unfortunately, influenced by the deluding energy, the living beings becomes false enjoyers under the dictation of the mode of nature. Puffed up by such a false sense of becoming God, the deluded living beings increase their material strength by so many activities and thus become a burden on the earth. So much so that the earth becomes completely uninhabitable by the same. This state of affairs is called dharmasya or misuse of the energy of the human being. When such misuse of human energy is prominent, the saner living beings become perturbed by the awkward situation created by the vicious administrators, who are simply burdens on the earth, and the Lord appears by his internal potency just to save the saner section of humanity and to alleviate the burden due to the earthly administrators in different parts of the world. He does not favor any of the unwanted administrators, but by his potent power, he creates hostility between such unwanted administrators as the air creates fire in the forest by the friction of the bamboos. The fire in the forest takes place automatically by the force of the air, and similarly, the hostility between different groups of politicians takes place. By the unseen design of the Lord. The unwanted administrators, puffed up by false power and military strength, thus become engaged in fighting amongst themselves over ideological conflicts and so exhaust themselves of all powers. The history of the world reflects this factual will of the Lord, and it will continue to be enacted until the living beings are attached to the service of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 7.14, this fact is very vividly described. There it is said that diluting energy is my potency, and thus it is not possible for the dependent living beings to supersede the strength of the material modes. But those who take shelter in me, the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, can cross over the gigantic ocean of material energy. This means that no one can establish peace and prosperity in the world by fruitive activities or by speculative philosophy or ideology. The only way is to surrender unto the Supreme Lord. Prabhuji, little bit.
You completed. The only way to surrender to Supreme Lord and just become free from the illusion of the diluting energy. So how, I mean, the detail Prabhupada is giving that after killing the kings of war, Krishna comes. Paritranaya sadhunam and vinashaya chatushkatam. So Prabhupada is elaborating that how Krishna removed the those who were not fit as administrators, those who were not following the path of dharma and religion. So they were all slain. One more verse for today. Saisha naraloke asmin avatina swamayaya reme strira kushasto bhagavan prakrito yatha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, appeared on this planet by his internal potency and enjoyed himself amongst competent women as if he were engaging in mundane affairs. Purport by his divine grace. The Lord married and lived like a householder. This is certainly like a mundane affair, but when we learn that he married 16,108 wives and lived with them separately in each and every place, certainly it is not mundane. Therefore, the Lord living as a householder amongst his competent wives is never mundane, and his behavior with them is never to be understood as a mundane sex relation. The women who became the wives of the Lord are certainly not ordinary women, because to get the Lord as one's husband is a result of many millions of birth, tapasya, austerity. When the Lord appears on different lokas or planets, or on this planet of human beings, he displays his transcendental pastimes just to attract the conditioned souls to become his eternal servitors, friends, parents, and lovers, respectively, in the transcendental world, where the Lord eternally reciprocates such exchanges of service. Service is pervertedly represented in the material world and broken untimely, resulting in sad experience. The illusioned living being, conditioned by material nature, cannot understand out of ignorance that all our relations here in the mundane world are temporary and full of improprieties. Which is a little bit up. Such relation cannot help us to be happy perpetually, but if the same relation is established with the Lord, then we are transferred to the transcendental world after leaving this material body and become eternally related with him in the relation we desire. The women amongst whom he lived as their husband are not, therefore, women of this mundane world, but are eternally related with him as transcendental wives, a position which they attained by perfection of devotional service. That is their competency. The Lord is Param Brahma, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Conditioned souls seek after perpetual happiness in all places, not only on this earth, but also on other planets throughout the universe, because constitutionally, a spiritual spark as he is can travel to any part of God's creation. But being conditioned by the material modes, he tries to travel in space by spacecraft and so fails to reach his destination. The law of gravitation is binding upon him like the shackles of a prisoner. By other process, he can reach anywhere, but even if he reaches the highest planet, he cannot attain that perpetual happiness for which he is searching life after life. When he comes to his senses, however, he seeks after Brahman happiness, knowing it for certain that unlimited happiness which he is seeking is never attainable in the material world. As such, the Supreme Being Parabrahma certainly does not seek his happiness anywhere in the material world, nor can his paraphernalia of happiness be found in the material world. He is not impersonal because he is the leader of the supreme being amongst innumerable living beings. He cannot be impersonal. He is exactly like us and he has all the propensities of an individual living being in fullness. He marries exactly like us, but his marriage is neither mundane nor limited by our experience in the conditioned state. His wives, therefore, appear like mundane women, but factually they are all transcendental liberated souls, perfect manifestations of internal potency.
Eternal energy. So, Hare Krishna. So how Krishna dealt with different people, though this section, Prabhupada is giving elaborate details, is how Krishna met and exchanged with his queens, the most confidential of his Dwarka residents. Okay. Anyone has any discussion or question or query or comment? Yes, Sonika?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, it was mentioned that we all are having seven mothers.
Yeah.
One was a wife of Brahmanas. So Prabhuji, there may be many Brahmanas. So
No,
all
no.
Brahman.
Brahmana is one who gives knowledge. One who gives knowledge. One who is the leader of the community. So Brahman Patni is considered as a mother.
So Prabhuji,
One was the spiritual master's wife. She is also considered as Guru Mata. Brahmani is also considered to be as Guru Mata. Okay. Third is the wives of a king. That is the third. So three are these mothers. Remember, wife of the spiritual master, wife of the Brahmana, wife of the king. Three. Then own mother. Fourth. Then mother cow. Fifth. Mother earth. Sixth. What is left? Which one is left to make it seven?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, nurse.
Nurse. Yes, very good. Difficult to remember nurse also. It is actually dhai. One who feeds, besides the mother, the nurse who feeds the child. So that is also called the mother. Okay. But now in this Kali Yuga, this other mothers, their role and their influence is hardly there. Not there. But these are considered to be the seven mothers. So individual is supposed to have debt, not only of his own mother, but also of the other mothers. Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Try to keep reading, if possible, prepare your notes while you are studying, while you are reading, prepare your notes also. Manoram, why you are not sending your write-up? Why you stopped it?
Yesterday I have sent, but day before yesterday's class, I have to prepare.
Spend time, spend time. This is important. At least in Kartik, do that. Okay, thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jai Prabhupada ki jai. And our yatra is coming very close. So next Sunday we'll be all traveling. So please see whatever best you can do for registration. Today Manoram Prabhu confirmed to me that Kaushik Prabhu is coming. He sent his ticket also. Very good. Keep making effort. Keep inviting people. At least if they come to Braj, they will get such heaps of piety so that they can become serious in devotional life. Keep making an attempt. Hare Krishna. Tomorrow I'll be coming. There, Shri Prabhu. Send the invitation.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Coming to IAR. Okay. Hare Krishna.